I'm Gary Spolansky, shamanic empathic healer and Reiki master, and I'm here today to welcome you to my podcast entitled The Power Is You, and it's based on my book by the same title, which is The Power Is You, A Guide to Self-Empowerment. To tell you briefly about myself, I've been working in the field of self-empowerment and healing for the last 30 years. In the course of that time, I've helped many with many different issues, fears, uncertainties, and hesitations, limitations that kept them from reaching their true potential. In this podcast, what I'd like to do is offer you different thoughts and ideas of how to become more empowered. Some are very direct, some are simple, but when taken together, they provide a path, a means, a way for you to see some of the things that might be holding you back and realize that perhaps what you think is a negative isn't necessarily a negative. For example, the first segment of this podcast is entitled, It's Time to Show Ourselves Some Compassion. And the premise is simple. It's the idea that each and every one of us is critical. Each and every one of us puts ourselves down. And I'll give you a good example. If you look at media, movies, TV, etc., everything is about those people who stand out. And, we all, in one way or another, either seek to emulate or to look at them and say, why aren't we like that? Yet I have a question, and the question really is, why do you think you're not like that? I mean, for example, just because you're watching, say, a baseball game, and a fielder makes a catch in the bottom of the ninth inning that saves the game for his team and sends 50,000 fans home and happy. That's pretty amazing, right? A huge impact. But why is that more important than, say, a father who works all day, comes home at night, and instead of just sitting down, reading the paper and being involved in himself, goes and has a catch with his young son, makes the child feel like he's very special? Or maybe from a different point of view, what about a mom who has a daughter who has a learning disability, and that daughter, through her mother's efforts, learns not only to overcome her disability, but goes on to achieve some really unique things? Can you tell me that the baseball player who thrilled those fans for a few moments made a more important impact than either of these parents? This is something that we do to ourselves each and every day. We sit there and we say, other people's things matter. I wish I could be like them. But we don't stop to acknowledge ourselves for what we have to offer. And I think that's really an important concept, because in our society, as I've noted many times in the past, it seems to be, if you're not first, you're last. I guess that's the nature of a capitalistic society that's very competitive, because it's always about the best school, the best doctor, the best this, the best that. But why does it have to be that way? Why can't you be the best that you can be? And more importantly, why are you not acknowledging to yourself how you make a difference? One of the things I've often said to my clients is this, and it's applicable to children as well as to adults. At the end of each day, take a moment, take a couple of moments, think back through your day. Ask yourself, what did I do today? How did I make a difference? And as you look back, it can be complex things like, wow, I really scored at work. I made a point in the presentation everybody loved. Or it could be something like, hey, I just won the lottery. Those are big things. But what about simple things like, oh, I made somebody smile. I actually decided to help somebody and they thanked me. Do you know, if you think about it, how would you feel if you made a difference in somebody's life? For example, somebody who was down, unhappy, depressed, and you said something or did something that lifted them up, gave them a chance to stop and say, maybe it's not as bad as I feared. I would think that's pretty powerful, okay? But how many times do you do that? And more, how many times do you think about it? And here's a secret related to that. It doesn't have to be one time. You're not being egoic if you do that multiple times. If, say, a couple of times during the day, wow, that really made me feel good. That's great. And then maybe a week or so later, wow, I remember. That's pretty cool. Instead of rushing on to the next thing and what am I going to do now, take the time to stroke yourself. Take the time to acknowledge that you made a difference. Take the time to consider that you are important because, there's an interesting quote that I have here from the book. I think it's kind of worth reading. Let's see. Do I have it or did I misplace? No, here it is. Each of us, from the most celebrated to the least revered, has in some way touched the heart of another on a very deep level. And don't forget, every son and every daughter who has lived before has had a mother. So, if you are a mother, no matter how fleeting or how complete your involvement with your child was, you made a difference. If you're a father and you helped your son or your daughter to feel good about themselves, to recognize their potential, to help them move forward in a way that says, I did good, you made a difference. If we don't acknowledge ourselves for the positive things we do, how can we find it in ourselves to honor the positive things that others do and not become jealous or envious? I'd like to close with this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "To the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world." That's a pretty interesting thought, and I'm going to invite you to think about that for a while. And until the next time we meet, I wish you a pleasant day and hope that more and more you find the pleasure and the power that is you. Thank you.